You are listening to the Living Her Next Phase podcast with Bree Cobb. Whether you're entering empty nest territory, navigating a new relationship, nurturing new friendships, pivoting careers, getting fit and sexy, or just thinking there has to be more than this, you are in the right place. Have you ever wondered if you've already lived the best years of your life? Not because anyone actually said it to you, but because somewhere along the way, you started believing it. We grow up surrounded by messages that celebrate youth. We are taught to chase youth, preserve youth, and somehow outrun aging. And without even realizing it, many women enter their 40s quietly wondering if they're becoming less visible, irrelevant, and in some cases less important. But what if everything we've been told is wrong? What if our biggest opportunities don't arrive in our 30s, but in our 50s and beyond? Today's guest is living proof. Maugé spent years fearing the aging process, just like so many women do. But the moment she stopped fighting it and started embracing who she was becoming, her life took an unexpected turn. At the age of 54, Mia turned to Instagram to find out if there were other midlife women who felt the same way. Her intention was to connect and possibly create some sort of platform for visibility. Within 4 weeks, Mia was scouted by 3 modeling agencies, giving her the opportunity to actually be the representation she felt was so needed to help combat ageism and change perceptions of aging. Today, she's an international model, an anti-ageism activist, and a powerful voice challenging the way we think about beauty, visibility, and what it really means to grow older, beautifully, gracefully, and just fully. I want you to know that this conversation is not about going gray. It's about saying yes to unexpected opportunities, even when you don't know where they'll lead. It's about believing that your next chapter has the potential to be your best one. So, if you've ever wondered what's next, or wondered whether your biggest moments have already happened, I think this conversation is exactly what you need to hear. Here's my conversation with Maugé. Hi, Mia. How are you?
Hello, I'm fabulous. Thank you very much. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for joining me today. I am so excited to meet with you, talk to you, and just have you inspire so many people because of all that you've been doing online and offline. So thanks
Oh,
again.
thank you. You're very welcome. I'm happy to be here.
Good. So I wanted to start with a quote that I got from you.
Oh,
And it is, "My battle with aging was won when I stopped fighting." And I looked at that as the ultimate in confidence, right? Because through speaking with you and just looking at your posts and looking at your content, you talked about things really shifting for you once you kind of let go of some things, such as your hair color or
it was
stop
that.
it, you know?
Mhm.
So how did you gain the confidence to put yourself out there, just release whatever may have been pent up for a while, and be confident enough to go online and let us see this journey as you were experiencing it?
So I didn't document my journey. So I stopped dyeing my hair in 2016. So almost 10 years now. And I didn't anticipate how much that was going to impact me as day to day, but also the core of me as well, and how I looked at myself and how I projected myself to the world. But also, I didn't imagine I was going to get the response that I got either. I just didn't expect any of this. So what happened was 2016, I had been dyeing my hair for 20 years. I was 50 at that point. So maybe just under 20 years, 19 years, something like that. And I wasn't dyeing it because I enjoyed the color. I felt good once I dyed it. I literally spent my 40s fearful of aging, fearful of becoming irrelevant. There was no reference point. There was no positive reference for me being past 40. I felt overlooked shopping in shops. There's no representation of women over 40 in most of the shops that I was shopping in. And I was just beginning to feel also the digital world. I worked in an environment that had been, I was in publishing. That was all becoming digital. Also, social media was coming into effect and becoming popular. That was seen as a young person's game. And rather than upskilling people that had been in the company for a long time, they were bringing younger people in. This is for young people, you know. So there was a lot going on in my 40s, and I was fearful of being judged and seen to be old, irrelevant, past my prime, past my sell-by date, and just felt the need to cover it up. So I wasn't enjoying dyeing it. I wasn't feeling good about the dye. And I think if you do that, that's a whole different thing. I was covering my age. That's what I was trying to do. So the minute that the context of me stopping really was one, my daughters. It was about a year-long campaign of them saying to me, "We really don't like this smell of that dye. It's just, you know," I did it, box dyed it every 2 weeks at home.
Wow.
And they could see that they could, you know, and I realized it wasn't a good thing to be presenting to them. I actually loved the silver. I loved it. I've always liked that color, but I was just fearful of looking old. It was as simple as that. And I didn't realize, I didn't challenge why I was feeling like that. I didn't feel curious about why I was feeling like that. I just knew that's what you do. You just cover it up. Society tells you to cover it up. And that's what I did. And once I decided, the girls had pestered me for a year, as I say, and I had an operation. I had 6 weeks to heal. I was like, you know what? During these 6 weeks, I'm not going to see anybody. So I'm just going to let it go and see how I feel about it. And as difficult as it was, every stage of it, I fell more and more in love with the color. Like, I was just like, I'm just going to keep going, keep going. It was a difficult journey. It was 2 years to grow it fully. It was in a climate where it was a really radical thing to do at that time, and people didn't get it because, as I say, it was 10 years ago. There wasn't a supportive community online or any of that.
Right.
There was no reference for it either. So people thought I was losing my mind. People thought I was in crisis, midlife crisis. You know, they thought that's what was going on.
People are buying a red car,
yeah. And it was just seen to be like, it's not what you do. You're letting yourself go, you know. Nobody actually said that to me, but it was just the silence around it and the way people looked at me that I knew this was something that people were confused by. Even like shopping in shops, people would look at, you know, tell me the cost of my shopping whilst looking at my roots coming through, you know, like what's actually happening here. Now it's a different climate. I think people know it's intentional now, often. So once you get past a certain stage, people know it's intentional. But yeah, it was a difficult journey back then. But what happened was this unveiling or unraveling of slow and gradual unraveling of my own inner ageist. You know, all those ageist beliefs that I had around how the things that had made me fearful about aging, like limiting self-belief around aging, you know, all of that was just shed in the journey of growing my hair out, which, as I say, I didn't expect. And there was just a sense of empowerment and a rebirth that happened just because I embraced it. And once it had grown fully and the response on the street daily, usually from younger women, was like, my daughters liken it to walking down the road with a puppy. I was stopped so often with kind words, and people just say, "Oh my God, your hair's incredible," you know, multiple times a day for many years. It doesn't happen as much. It still happens, but not as much as it did then, because it was quite a phenomenon back then, 10 years ago. Now it's, like I say, more and more people do it. So, which is fantastic because it's being normalized, which is what I wanted to happen when I set out on my social media journey.
Right. And, you know, it's interesting because you talked about being fearful of getting old, and that was part of this journey. And I think like the 40s do that for women, right? It's like, you know what's coming. We know how society has, you know, viewed us forever, right? When you're 20, you don't think about it, but you do hear it, right? You see
Yeah.
it in publications, you see it everywhere, and you hear it. And then it makes us really fearful at that time. And then we have all these things that we experience physically and then mentally. So it
Mm,
is a tough time. So I'm
yeah.
sure when you got to that point where you're like, wow, I'm embracing this. I feel good about myself. I'm showing it. And your daughter's helping you through that, I think was definitely a big positive thing. But to be out in the open and people are just seeing you and gravitating towards you and just kind of reaffirming what you already are feeling, that
Yeah.
will help that journey along.
It just brought out this energy. Yeah. Like just a
Yeah.
real positive energy. It was,
Mhm.
if you're getting that kind of kindness and niceness from strangers on a regular
Mhm.
basis, you're just going to exude something, that's positive. It's just,
Right.
it makes sense that that would happen. Sorry, did you want to come in, Combs? Oh, it's just sorry, there's a noise there. I would also add to what you're saying about 40s, because I also had, if you throw perimenopause in the mix as well as the whole societal shift,
Right.
and I had undiagnosed perimenopause. We're talking, this is a long time ago. I didn't know what was actually happening. I didn't know all the symptoms of menopause. I knew about hot flushes. So
Mhm.
I thought something was up, but I didn't know that you were going to have mood swings. I didn't know that I was going to have tinnitus. I thought I was falling apart. So, there was all of that in the mix. I was going through a breakup. My 40s was horrendous. In fact, 40, you were saying, something happens when you get to 40 that's different. My 40th birthday was the first birthday I didn't want to celebrate.
Oh, wow.
I felt like, oh my gosh, I believed what society tells you, and that is that
Yes.
40 is the beginning of the decline. You're declining into old age, slowly and gradually fading into insignificance.
Right.
And that, I was fearful of that, and believed it. And when I look back, it's like that period of time could have been so different for me if I just kicked back and pushed back on what society tells us earlier. I don't have any regrets. Maybe I needed to go through that in order to come out the other end and bloom, which is
Right.
exactly what happened when I came to 50. And my 50s has been the most transformative time of my life so far, that like in the most positive way. I was actually really sad to say goodbye to them when I hit 60 last year. But because it was that incredible, I really felt like it the 50s is the sweet spot. That's how I felt when I
Mhm.
was in it. Um, in terms of energy, vitality, you've come past the menopause, there's just a rebirth that happens that is so powerful.
Oh,
If you acknowledge it, if you tap into it.
interesting, because I think probably from what I've noticed the last 5 or 6 years, the impact that you have made, the impact that a lot of other women in their 50s have made, just embracing where we are, talking loudly and honestly about this whole time of perimenopause, menopause, and just psychologically what you feel and experience when you hit 40 and beyond. I think the fact that all of you have shared so much has really helped everybody else coming along.
I hope so. Because the first thing that I wrote on my bio when I first went public with my Instagram page in 2020 was, and this was purely from my own experience from having no reference. And I really felt that a reference point can be so powerful. An authentic reference point can be so powerful. I just wrote, let's create, it was a call to action, let's create a silver space for the next generation. And by that, I just meant an authentic space. It didn't necessarily have to have silver hair. I
Mhm.
probably would word it differently now, if I'm honest. But at that time, it was just like, I just wanted to galvanize a community that could show the next generation that, hey, this is actually not a scary time in life. You
Right.
don't have to go through what I went through in my 40s. You can skip that
Mhm.
and really embrace it and realize that we live in a patriarchal society, and we're powerful women. We are, when you get to a certain age and you've got multiple years of experience and knowledge and skill set,
Mm-hmm.
you're a threat to a patriarchal
Yeah,
society. So and I believe strongly that that's where that stems from. This whole kind of
completely.
like, yeah, being shoved to the wayside and just like, you're no longer needed. Thank you very much.
I
Because
believe that.
we'd be running countries if we were taught that how powerful we could be as
Yeah.
we age.
And our impact on the younger generation, right? That is what they're scared of. They want to
Yeah, yeah,
keep,
that too.
the younger women just, you know, according to them, probably not what we
Yeah,
say, naive and uninformed. And,
yeah,
based on our lived experiences, we will
yes.
have a significant, we'd make a significant impression upon them and have impact that could alter how they approach men, you know?
Do you know what? And isn't that, I feel so lucky. I'm Gen X and I just feel so lucky that we have social media. Like we
Hmm.
can just be visible, loud, proud,
Yes.
show what true, what we look like at this time in life. Well, this
Right.
is just me being me. Do you know what I mean? It's like, that's all I'm doing on Instagram. It's
But I
just
think
showing up.
you're also giving women permission to be visible, right? So for those who feel they need the permission, as opposed to shrinking during that time that you mentioned, like from what society tells us is you're heading towards a certain age, we can't get those numbers out of our heads. But then I
Yeah,
find that some women that I speak to literally intentionally shrink themselves because they're
yeah.
concerned about that. But, you know, when you
No
are
shrinking.
right and shrinking, but when you are getting your ads from getting major brand deals and being your authentic self and just living life loudly,
Yeah,
it in essence tells others, you can be visible and thrive at this point in your life. And I think that
yeah,
is such a positive message that you are living, not just saying it, but you're showing
yeah.
us that you're doing it.
Oh,
So,
that means a lot to me. That really does.
yeah, definitely. Um, and so how I have viewed you as someone who is just in terms of a title, say a fashion and beauty content creator. But clearly there's so much more, right? So how would you describe yourself?
I mean, the overarching thing is I would say I'm an anti-ageism activist. And by that, I mean, I use my role as a model. Like I'm a model on a mission. I like to think I use my role as a model. I use social media as a tool. I do panel talks and public speaking. I do brand consultations as well. And I'm writing a book. And so
Wow.
I'm using all of those platforms and media to make change, to really challenge the narrative, the negative narrative around aging, to take the fear mongering out of marketing that the beauty industry has used for decades, around
Hmm.
aging. Create a problem and solve it with a product. That's a classic thing that capitalism does.
Right.
And the beauty industry has really it's really served. I think I can't remember how many billions of pounds or dollars the anti-aging industry is, but it's a lot of money.
Hmm.
And that is purely based around fear mongering. Like it's
Hmm.
like the language, the negative language, and the language is so powerful. And this is one of the things, that I've been talking about since I've been doing this, to just be kinder. Like we don't want to be in combat with our skin and the aging process. We don't want to be in combat with it. We don't want to be fighting it. Who wants to be fighting every day and slapping cream
Right.
on because it's combating and it's anti-wrinkling and
Right.
anti-aging and whatever. You might still want to kind of, you might want to look after yourself. You might want to be the best that you can be, or maintain what you have, or whatever it is. But just the language alone just needs to be kinder. You just
Hmm.
talk, whatever age you are, you want to be the best. You want to look the best that you can. You want to feel the best that you can. And I think it's as simple as that. Just changing language. Brands can talk about what results they get with their skincare or makeup or whatever it is without using combative language. I think
Right.
just being kind.
Right.
I
Because
think. it's just a matter of changing the narrative, changing the language, taking
Mm-hmm.
the fear mongering out of it, cherishing what you have now, honoring it, and living in the now, not thinking, oh my God, I'm going to look this way and that way in 10, 20 years time, and I need to do something about it. This fear mongering is not healthy. It's just not good for
It's
your
not.
mental well-being
And it
either.
really does mess with our mental state because,
Yeah, it
you
does.
and I know I've seen it in your content, and I felt like this for a long time because, you know, years ago, I worked in beauty on the brand management side, on a corporate side. And one thing I used to see is that everything was about being young and supple and having supple skin and being beautiful. And and I was really young at that time too, but I'm thinking, well, what happens when you get older? You know,
Yeah,
it just seems like you should just kind of fade away. I mean, differently than what we're seeing today. But that used to bother me even then, right? Because of course,
really.
my mom, my aunts, grandmothers, and all that stuff. So you look at them and you look at the beauty practices that they had in place, and everything was about trying to preserve your skin,
Yeah,
look
just
at
take it.
look your best for where you are at the moment.
Yeah,
Today, what I see is like all those CO2 treatments where like you're burning your skin, the layer of your skin.
yeah, yeah.
Listen, I did a recent episode about whatever you feel that you need to do to
I
look
totally agree.
that is totally up to you.
Yeah,
But I'm just talking about sometimes for some of us, we may go to the extreme because of the anti-aging.
exactly.
uh,
That's exactly what I'm
that
trying
you're
to say.
Mhm,
It's like I have no judgment for anybody. I dyed
mhm.
my hair for 20 years because of a fear of aging. I would never, I understand it. I get it. Do you know what I
Right,
mean? And a
right.
lot of that was around, all the adverts, 100% grey coverage,
Mhm,
being shameful about your greys showing. So
right.
I get, and there is so much policing that goes on for women's bodies. I would never go into, I'm not going to, my page and anything that I talk about is never going to be judgmental of anybody who makes it. I'm pro-choice. You have
Mhm,
a choice to do whatever you want to do. It's your body. But I would say that brands and, particularly skincare brands have a responsibility to not use negative language around what is a natural process. I just think it only makes sense to them. It doesn't, if you actually really look at it, it makes no sense to be doing that because ultimately that, we're going to age. We will.
right,
It's just what happens,
right. And that's
and
oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
I was gonna say that's also why I love, like, when you are represented on skincare brands, right? Because I think, like, during COVID time, it seemed to be where we focused on body, right? And so you would have
Mm,
certain brands showing women of various sizes, like, yes, everyone could be beautiful regardless of your size. And then
mm,
to see that you're now also being represented for skincare, and it shows everyone, yes, at
yes,
various stages of your life and various
yeah,
ages, you are beautiful, right? And so
absolutely.
what you have. So I really
I'm
appreciate that.
I'm so glad that comes through because that's exactly, I just strongly believe that this focus on youth and youth being the goal and being young being the goal is so unhealthy. And I think it dismisses mature beauty. It dismisses advanced beauty. I think we all have like an elder relative that we look at and we just think, oh my God, she's so beautiful.
Mhm,
Her face, whatever she exudes, her personality, her smile, whatever it is beautiful. But we just don't actually look at the broader. We just need to broaden our perspective of beauty,
mhm.
our perception of beauty.
Right.
Broaden it. It's not just about being young. That is so beautiful. Being youthful and young is so beautiful, but so is being mature. It's a different kind of beauty. And this stupid expression that beauty fades with age is
Mhm,
just, I did a post about this the other day. Beauty fades with age is such a nonsense. It's
mhm.
like beauty evolves and it changes, but it doesn't fade. And the minute we reframe that and people broaden their perception of beauty and what beauty looks like, and that it is not just youthful,
Yes.
that it transcends age. There's women that are really wrinkled and in their 80s and 90s, and they look beautiful. It's just a different kind of beauty that some people can't see because we're so brainwashed to think that beauty is only youthful.
True. And it actually makes me think of something that happened to me at a family function. And it to this day, it just irks me. I was with
What's
my
that? I need to know.
let me tell you, and I have never said this where it was recorded, but, I had a great uncle who's now deceased, but he literally saw me one day at his family function. He looked at me and he goes, "Wow, your beauty has faded." I was in my
Wow.
30s and
Oh my
I
God.
was so devastated. I was like, "What did you just say to me?" Out of the
Wow.
blue. We weren't even having a conversation. So every family and his wife
Rude.
was sitting right there. And I looked at
Wow.
her and I said, "Can you believe he said that to me?" And she kept her head straight. And then we had other family members come by, like cousins my age. And I'm like, you know what he said to me? And everyone was like, "Oh my God," but no one wanted to get involved in the conversation.
Yeah, yeah.
It was so, when I
That would
tell
stay
you,
with you.
oh
Yeah.
my God. Like, clearly I'm talking about it today.
Yeah, yeah.
Talking
No,
about
I don't understand. It's like men that
years
come on
later.
my page and say nonsense. It doesn't happen very often, but it's like,
Mhm.
even if it's a compliment, I'm like, this unsolicited. I don't need your validation. Thank you very
Right,
much. Do you know what I mean? It's like,
right.
what's your old uncle
I
telling
know.
your beauty has faded with age? It's like,
Beauty is
what?
faded. And I was
Mm.
in my 30s.
Yeah, that's just rude. That's just rude
I
and
mean,
unwanted. You don't even care to hear his opinion. That's
I
like,
know.
yeah,
And
yeah,
I'm thinking
just
we
rude.
weren't even having a conversation. He just was looking at me and just felt that he needed to say that. I'm like,
Wow,
"Hmm." So, yeah.
wow.
So that stung for
Well,
a
let me just you know it hasn't, right? You know it hasn't. You know you're
yeah,
stunning.
it depends on the day.
Oh, no, you look gorgeous.
Thank you, thank you. But, what I like to find out too is like, I think, of course, our lived experiences shape who we are at different stages of our lives.
Yeah.
What was your beginning like? So, what was like your first career? I know you mentioned you were in publishing, but what was that? And I'm assuming that all of the things that you may have done in your life has really shaped today who you are and what you can
Mm.
contribute to your profession now. So, what was like your beginning?
So, I've always worked. Like I've worked through like what you call, I think you call it, what's the last phase of school for you? We call it secondary school.
Oh, like high school,
Yeah,
college?
high school,
High
exactly.
school, huh?
So I always had a job. Like I've always been like independent.
Mhm.
I didn't come from very much, like really not a privileged upbringing at all. Lived in what I think you call public housing
Mhm, mhm.
not in a project, but a block of flats.
Yeah,
Do you
like
call it
board
public housing?
mhm,
Yeah.
mhm,
So I've always had like, always worked, always been independent financially. If I needed something, I went to work for it. I worked milk rounds, paper rounds,
mm,
worked in a dry cleaners, worked in supermarkets, always had a Saturday job or an after school job. Because I liked nice things and, that was the only way I was going to get it.
right, right.
um, but but weirdly, my career path has really not been about money. So when I was younger, it was about financial independence and not relying on my parents, And then as I became an adult, I had responsibility quite young. So I was kind of, my brother came to live with me. My father passed away when I was young. My mom went to live in the States, and I was essentially on my own from 17.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, so didn't didn't again, like I just kind of drifted. My career kind of, I don't want to say drifted, it was organic. Let's say say it was
Mhm,
organic. So
mhm,
I didn't really have a clear path. Um, but weirdly, what has happened, and I realize this now when I look back at my career, it really has always been about making a difference in terms of initially it was about making money to survive. I worked as a dental nurse for a period of time. I worked as a nanny for a little while, worked in a nursery, and then the serious jobs, the jobs that I stayed in for more than 4 years at a time, really were about elevating others and, for example, and people and the community. For example, my first, when I discovered that I could write, because I didn't go to university as a writer, I always read and always kind of self-educated. But my circumstances just didn't allow for that. I had a younger brother to look after who was a teenager, and I had that when I was a teen. So I was 18, he was 16, and I had a lot of responsibility from a young age. So, but once I kind of settled into adult life and adulting, I discovered that I could write, and I knew from high school that I could write because the English was my favorite subject. It was the only one that I really excelled at, and that I connected with the teacher, and the teacher really, encouraged me, and it was the one topic that I really enjoyed and excelled at school. Um, but I got to revisit that by chance. I bought a really lovely camera, gifted a really lovely camera actually from a boyfriend, and got into photography as a side kind of hobby that then became a hustle. And found myself in a magazine meeting. I'd already had published, the photographs published. Found myself in a magazine contributors meeting and came up with an idea for an article about gangster rap, which was just emerging at the time. It was a black music magazine. Call it urban music now, but back then it was black music. And I came up with an idea, and the editor said, well, that's a great idea. Why don't you write it? And I was like, oh, me? Really? Okay. And I said, yes. And I wrote it, and then was like, I really like this. And I passed it over, and he really liked it. And then from there, I kind of worked my way up to being the deputy editor. He was the founder and editor of the magazine, and I became his deputy.
Nice.
And then kind of at that time, the climate for black music really was such that there was no budget, no marketing budgets for it in this country. It was very much overlooked and seen as niche and underground. So the magazine that I was writing for really was a platform for elevating the music and the culture. And I loved it. And didn't make much money, but I loved the fact that I was making a difference, and I got to travel loads. I did D'Angelo's first international European cover with that. Yeah, no, I got to break gangster rap in a mainstream magazine as well. I kind of infiltrated those guys in LA and
I
got
love this because like you started like from the ground up with the industry.
Yeah,
That's
I
the
really
best thing.
did.
All the experiences and get to do more than, say today that is so
Yeah,
structured, right? And there's so many more
yes.
players involved. You probably got to do so much more back then.
Honestly, I really did, and I think it's so much more difficult for young people now. Like, you just had to get yourself in the room back then and show that you were, enthusiastic, or you had, a natural skill for something, and you could just, fly. Um, and I really enjoyed that time in life. We're talking early 90s. It was a really good time to be in black music and, R&B and hip hop and all of that.
Right.
So, but really, I loved music, but the whole thing was about this is a movement. We're trying to elevate and present our music, and, because we covered fashion as well. So it was a really exciting time. And that's, and then from there, I went there was a new Black Music Awards show, and it was called Music of Black Origin, MOBO for short. And I got headhunted from there to come on board for the first one. That's just had its 30th anniversary the other day. But I was just in the thick of things, enjoying what I was doing purely because it was making a difference and creating a platform for other people.
Right.
And that's just been a common theme throughout my career. I've never been money driven. I've always been about, to my detriment, there's been times where I've been like, really should have thought about this. I should have a pension and whatever else. But here we are today, and I've kind of
it's worked out.
All of that has given me, like you said earlier, nuggets of or gems along the way that have served me today.
What I think is really good about this message too is we live in a time where we expect that by the time you're done with high school, here, right,
Mm,
high school, and if you choose college, you do that knowing what you want to do. What do you want to make?
mm,
Who you want to be? How do you know? Like, I've been asking this
yes.
question forever. I graduated high school at 16 and went to college. And
Mm,
I thought I wanted to do one thing, which was,
yes.
I have no idea why, but I wanted to be an OBGYN.
Yes.
I did. And then I got there, and my first year, I was like, I'm not even interested in this. What do I
Yeah.
get to do? And I spent some time trying to figure it out. But what you just laid out um, was that, like, it's okay to not know and just kind of go with the flow. And then a lot of times, life just presents certain things to you,
Yeah.
and you just
Yeah.
take advantage of them, not knowing where they're going to lead. But
Mm.
based on what you just described, like all these things, first of all, it sounds like fun. You were part of a roundup movement, which
Yeah.
today is a completely structured, it's not even a movement anymore. It's just a
No,
complete industry.
it's a massive
And now,
industry. Yeah.
yeah, and all of this.
I think black music in the UK now, I saw a statistic the other day, makes for 80% of revenue.
Oh, wow.
And back then labels were like, we don't have a budget,
Hmm.
it's niche, it's underground. Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, there you go. That says it all.
Yeah.
And I'm just grateful to have been at the foundations to have
Hmm.
built the foundations for that. So yeah, to have been a part of building that. But like going back to what you're saying, I did a post about, kind of my evolution, I suppose, and my life kind of just touched on the milestones in my life and the decisions that were made that got me to today. Um, and I didn't think for a minute it was going to resonate in the way that it did. I mean, it went viral on TikTok and Instagram. And it really was, in essence, about, I did have a fear when I was telling you before, when I was doing all these different jobs just to make money. And friends of mine were really on a linear, clear path, career path, buying their homes and
Hmm.
whatever else. And I was in social housing, living, hand to mouth to a degree, but with responsibility. Like I said, I was looking after my brother. And I was like, am I ever going to get to a certain point? Am I ever going to get past this? I remember thinking that. And I also remember a friend of mine, I was about 31 at the time and had just had my first baby. And I remember her saying, oh, I've just read an article that said, if you haven't made it by 27, you're
Mm.
never going to make it.
Mm.
And I remember panicking, thinking, well, I'm
Yes.
never going to make it. Um, but we have these expectations. Society has these expectations. We then have those expectations of ourselves. And my post was about that. And it resonated with so many people. I mean, people were like, I'm crying reading this, or I
Hmm.
needed to hear this.
Hmm.
We worry so much that,
Me too.
that we haven't met these milestones or we haven't done a certain thing by a certain age.
Yeah.
And we spend so much time and energy worrying about it that we forget to enjoy ourselves. And it's like finding joy is should be the priority, not
Hmm.
worrying about what society expects of you or what anybody expects of you.
Right.
Having Not having self-limiting beliefs is a powerful thing as well. Not kind of believing that you can pivot and change, and your life can just take a turn. You might have it all mapped out, and then something happens, good or bad, that
Yeah.
takes you down another
Totally
route,
derails.
or another path. Yeah, yeah,
It does. And I don't think a lot of people are prepared for that, right? So, and you're right. Like here, you always hear by the age of 30, you should have done this. By the age of 30, you
mm,
should be here.
yeah,
And we know now that
yeah, yeah,
that is not true. And we try to
yes,
impart that upon our kids. Um,
yeah,
but it still exists, right? We can say whatever we
yes,
want, but if they are living in an environment with friends who seem to be moving at a faster pace or, doing things that have been outlined for them, they may feel in some way that they are behind, but no
yeah.
one knows what,
What's
10
ahead of them?
years
Yeah.
have to offer. Yeah.
Exactly. And
So,
also, like, it's what you place value on as well. So, someone might be on a path for making a lot of money or achieving a certain goal or whatever. And you may not be on the same path as them. but you might be growing in another way. Do you know what I mean? That isn't necessarily highlighted or valued by society on a whole, but
Right.
you're gaining life skills, you're gaining resilience, you're gaining whatever it might be, tool that you need for the next step.
Right.
And, you know, that's just as valuable as reaching that person, your friend, reaching their goal. You're dealing with something else that you can grow from. You know,
Right.
sometimes the setbacks are, well, often the setbacks are where we really learn something about ourselves, and we gain a skill that we can then use moving forward. I think we don't place a lot of value on that.
Very
I had a
true.
lot of trauma and tragedy happen to me at a young age, and I definitely think that gave me a sense of, I think it made me not afraid of risk. It made me tenacious and resilient, and it made me unafraid of instability as well. So I've never, like, I've never shied away from pulling back and going my own path. And I think that is because so much happened to me at a young age, you know, like so much, I had quite a lot to deal with from a young age, you know, and I think I definitely learned masses, not just about myself, but I learned skill sets for dealing and coping mechanisms.
Oh, yeah.
Mm.
So may I ask you this? And I get it,
No, no,
you know.
I'm joking.
So you mentioned that so you had responsibility for your brother at a young age and your mother had moved to the States.
Mm,
How how did that make you feel? So two questions.
yeah.
Why didn't you go with your mother? And how did that make you feel?
Ooh, um, good questions. And I've not spoken about this before. My mum's still alive, so you know. Um, so what can I say? My mum, uh, did things her own way too, I guess. You know, she did take my brother and I with her. It just was a really so. When I was 17 and my brother was 15, my mum and dad had separated at that point. Uh, my mum came into some money, inherited some money, and decided we were all going to go and live in the States, the three of us. And she took myself and my brother with her, but there was no plan. I don't know how much of this is relevant to your podcast, but there was no
You
plan.
didn't ask the
And
question, so
okay, it's the answer to the question, exactly. There was no plan. Mum, you know, it was her kind of dream to be out there, I guess. Uh, and I struggled there because I was 17 and my friends, you know, were really my family at that point in my life. And I we went to the States, we went to New York first, then San Francisco, then LA. And I think I lasted maybe like 3 months. And I just said, Mum, can I go back? I just, you know, I was unhappy. There was no plan in place. I had no, I wasn't going to high school. I wasn't making friends. I wasn't ingrained in the culture, in the community in any way. I was literally just being ferried around with my mom and my brother.
Mhm.
So I asked if I could come back. And she said yes. And I stayed with a friend for a short period of time at 17. And then at 18 is when you can qualify for social housing. And that's what I did. And I got a place. And my brother came to live with me shortly afterwards.
Hmm.
So yes, that's how I ended up in that situation.
Okay. Well, thank you
And
for
how did
sharing.
I feel was the other thing. I
Mhm.
just felt like I just need to make this work. Like
Hmm.
I need to make this work. And I've always been like that. Like I said to you, when I, you know, got jobs when I was at school and stuff, like I want nice things. I just have to, what do I do to make it work? I've always been a solution person.
Hmm. And so thank you for sharing that. I
That's
really
okay.
um and I look at it as yes, being relevant to the podcast because it's really about different phases that women have experienced in life. And
Mm,
that's important, right? Because it taught you a lot about yourself, I'm sure, to be able
mm,
to part from your mom and come back to your place of origin. and then
Yeah.
take on the responsibility of your brother. And that helped shape who you are going forward in life with all the other things that you had experienced, you
I
know?
had to grow up. Yeah, I had to grow up. But I always felt independent anyway.
Hmm.
Like I've
Hmm.
always had a sense of independence.
Hmm. Okay. And so then let's jump into motherhood, right? So you've got two
Yeah.
daughters, and I'm sure that they are just loving watching you thrive and excel at this point in your life, because
Mhm.
it's one thing for them to see who you are from a limited lens when they're younger,
Mhm.
but clearly when they are young adults, they're very aware, right? And
Yeah.
to see them, I'm sure you watch them watch you thrive right now. There has to be such a sense of pride from you and from them. Like how is that experience now for you?
It's yeah. I think I think they've always had, even when I was struggling as a single mom, struggling financially, we were talking about this the other day. Um, and they saw how fiercely independent I was during that period. Um, so there's always been a sense of pride, I think, from them. My youngest was telling me that the other day, like she that image of me just being a doer, just doing everything from DIY to working to, providing to counseling, whatever, like I've been so there has always been that sense of pride, but this kind of blooming that's taken place since, well, really since I stopped dyeing my hair at 50. It was gradual at the beginning, and then I was 54 in 2020 when I went public with my Instagram, and there was just this kind of exciting new chapter. Um, I think for the girls, there's definitely pride. There's definitely, I think they both had said to me separately without conferring, I can't wait to be in my 50s. Both of them said that to me. Uh, that was lovely because they obviously are seeing how it can be and I really strongly believe that this period in life should be aspirational. It should be
Hmm.
the goal.
Right.
It's the alternative is to die young if we're not going to get to this stage in life. And
Hmm.
this stage in life when you have so much at your disposal, where you're you can draw on life's experiences, like I've said before, you usually, have less responsibility financially if you're lucky. Many of us have more, more budget more disposable budget, disposable income, um, hopefully.
Right, right.
But as your kids get older, there's not that responsibility, that financial responsibility. So hopefully you can gain from that. But they've just seen me happy, me evolving, me growing, me becoming more confident,
Hmm.
in more comfortable in my skin than I've ever been. Um, they've seen me in my absolute authenticity, showing up. And I think there's nothing more powerful than a mum that can demonstrate what your future self can be and make it be aspirational. Um, there's nothing more powerful than that a mum can do than that.
Right.
So
I have a
yeah, to answer your question, they are proud of me. I'm super proud of them, but
yeah.
they are proud. They kind of take, me now, jetting off somewhere or whatever for work in their stride now. Before it was like, oh my gosh, she's going here, but they're
Right.
kind of 6 years in now, and they're like, okay, she's going off tomorrow. That's fine.
You're
They take
accustomed
it in
to
this.
it now.
Yeah, they take it in their stride. But if you think of the contrast from me working really hard, not having a lot, but giving to, my community in what way I can,
Mm-hmm.
um, and having purpose. Like I've always had purpose. Purpose has always been something that's driven me.
Hmm.
Um, and they know that too, but there was never any kind of, financial gain to it back then. Whereas now it's transformed my life completely. Being scouted on Instagram and that coming out of the blue and actually saying yes to it because it's way out of my comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
Being in front of the camera like that, I've never been comfortable in front of cameras, but because it
Mm-hmm.
had purpose and this was going to help to change perceptions, which is what I set out to do when I went public with my Instagram page. It was just another way of doing that and amplifying what it is and what it can look like, and what how I can create this space that is aspirational. It just fed into that beautifully, and that's why I said yes, and why I stepped through the cringe and came out the other end. And now I really enjoy it. Now I really enjoy it. And I enjoy it because I'm like, yeah, this is great. Like, I would have loved to have seen somebody doing that. I get just as excited if I see another model in a I took a photo today. I saw a model that I know on a campaign. I took a photo. I was like, I'm so excited. I'm going to put this on my stories, to celebrate her. I
Yes.
get excited when I see somebody else. So
Yeah.
if I'm doing it as well, and hopefully changing perceptions, and as I said, all this stuff around what it is to be youthful and beautiful, if I can counter that, be in the beauty space, fantastic. If I can counter that by being in the fashion space and showing, that you can enjoy fashion and style
Mm-hmm.
beyond 40. Um, if I can show up and be vocal about ageist messaging that we're all fed and taught, like beauty fades with age or whatever it might be, if
Right.
I can highlight and spotlight that and make a difference to the narrative by being visible, then, I'm happy that I'm just happy to be making a change.
Well, so take me through that first contact that you got. So you're posting on Instagram, you're talking about, being proud of where you are and being at your age, and just, showing everybody that you're confident. And then someone reaches out to you, and
Mm.
there starts your new journey, right? That phase that you're currently in, that has just exploded for you. What was that first contact like? And then how did you
Okay.
feel like, wow, I'm recognized for doing these things? And did you know that this was going to be the beginning of something big?
Absolutely. So what happened was so in 2020, I had like a couple hundred followers. I was following a couple hundred, and they were all family and friends, and my account was private. And I just used it to share with family and friends. And then in 2020, I was 54 and had spent the last 14 years shopping in beauty and fashion, but with beauty and fashion brands, feeling really like annoyed that I'm actually shopping in these shops and buying brands that I have been buying for decades and not seeing any kind of representation. Like, it was really getting on my nerves. By the time I was 54, I was just like, this is ridiculous. Like, whether it's like Adidas or whoever, I've been buying from you for 40 years. I've bankrolled my kids, who are now, I've introduced them to your brand. Firstly, I bought my kids the cute little Adidas
Mhm.
trainers, I
Right.
introduced them when they need bankrolling as teenagers because they're hooked on your brand because I introduced them to it. I'm bankrolling them, and I've been spending money with you for 40 years for myself, and yet there's literally no representation. Like
Mm-hmm.
everything is youth led, youth focused. So I was feeling a bit annoyed about that as a consumer. And I just came up with this idea. I was like, I had just done a job where I had built their social media from scratch. Um, and tried to challenge the negative narrative in the media for the event that I was working for. It was a Caribbean. It's the largest street event in Europe. It's called Notting Hill Carnival, and I was working for them. They have poor press, like it's racist. Basically, the press that they get, it's really negative, and I had been
Mm-hmm.
brought in to try and challenge that. And part of the problem was they didn't have social media. And so I set up their social media from scratch, persona, all of that. And we ended up having really good brand partnerships, and it was a huge success. Um, but from that, I gained the knowledge or an understanding of social media, and I realized the power of it as a tool. I hadn't been using it like that until I did that job. So I thought, if I set up, I thought, I'm not going to leave it to the gatekeepers, this whole visibility and representation. I'm just going to set up a website where we can feel seen. I'm going to, just like, I thought it would be like a mini Amazon, for example. No, Amazon's a dirty word to me right now, but I thought it'd be a mini, that sort of thing, where there's a shop, but there's also, I had the idea of having like a forum and, a platform for us to connect as midlife women over 40. And I thought I can talk to brands about how we target our demographic, and we can have specific products or brands that we would like to buy on the website, but I would present it to my demographic in an authentic way. I thought it would take years to get to that point. I had a 5-year kind of in my head. But I thought the first step is to go public with my Instagram and see if there's an appetite, see if other women feel overlooked by beauty and fashion brands. And that's what I was doing. That's what made me go public with my Instagram page. I thought, I'm just going to show up and put messaging out there and see if it resonates with anybody. I thought that's the first step.
Mm-hmm.
And because by then I had been 4 years into my silver hair journey, so I had the full length. And there were a lot of women that couldn't get to the salon. 2020 was lockdown. They couldn't get to the salon. So they were documenting their hair growth, their natural silver hair journeys.
Mm-hmm.
There was already a community called the Silver Sisters that was there. And very quickly, I connected with a lot of those women because they were similar age to me. Obviously, the algorithm kind of connected us. And I think what I was saying was resonating because most of them were middle-aged and they did feel the same way as me, overlooked and misrepresented. And I wanted to challenge stereotypes. And I was talking about various things. I was talking about menopause and everything that we might want to talk about. So I very quickly connected with a couple thousand amazing women through the silver hair community. But 4 weeks in, I got scouted by 4 model agencies. And I was just like,
4.
When I got the first, I was just like, what, me? But how does this work? Because they haven't seen me. Like, I'm just showing up on social media. All they've seen is a square of my head. They don't know that I'm not skinny. They don't know that I'm not 6 foot. Surely this can't happen. And also, I've never been in front of the camera. That's not really my thing. I'm always behind the scenes, either as a writer or in PR and comms, always behind the scenes.
Yeah.
So never in the spotlight. And I actually actively feel uncomfortable in front of a camera. I have all my life, like never been a front of camera person. Loads of photos of me going like that, or really awkward.
Right.
So it's not my happy place. But I, for a nanosecond, thought about turning it down. Had it come at any other stage in my life, I would have 100% said, I can't do that. I had got to a point where I was saying yes to a lot of stuff. I think this is, again, something that they don't tell us that happens when you get to midlife, is that the sense that you have you've got less years ahead of you than behind you. And there is a sense of urgency, not panic, but if not now, then when? I think that happens to us and we become less risk averse as well. And we're more likely to say yes and step out of our comfort zone because, why not? There's nothing to lose, Whereas when you're younger, you think you've got years ahead. I can do that another time, maybe, So my initial response, and it really only lasted for a short period of time, was I can't do that. And then it was just like, you better say yes, because you're complaining about a lack of visibility and representation. You've now been given this opportunity to be that. You have to say yes. And so I never did get to setting up this platform, and I just went down the route of modeling. And it's been a really powerful tool because a lot of the work that I've got has come via Instagram. Like, even though I was signed to agencies, the brands were just it was just a climate. The timing was perfect. I think agencies were online because it was the pandemic. So they were spending more time online and not having events where they were, scouting on the streets. So they were online. So clearly that's how I was seen. And then also, I think the power of social media, brands were starting to listen, beauty particularly, because it made absolute sense for them to actually hear what we were saying as middle-aged women, or women over 40. And the beauty industry has come leaps and bounds in the last 6 years. Like, it's insane how quickly they've become age inclusive.
Right.
Fashion has a long way to go. I think, we saw people on the catwalks the last season, women over 40, and it was amazing. But we need to see it in e-com, we need to see it in commercials, we need to see it, and not in a stereotypical way either. So, and also body diversity within our age group as well. It's like we're not all 6 foot and slim, and that's beauty. That's beautiful, but
Exactly.
there's so many different types of beauty. So yeah, and we all want to be seen. We all want to feel seen.
Right.
So there's a long way to go in fashion, but I definitely beauty. I kind of feel like my work is done in beauty, if I'm honest. I
Oh,
feel like
really?
I kind of do. Yeah, I've worked
You're
with.
ready to go to the next thing?
Yeah, I mean, I have really worked with, you know, pretty much every major brand. And and yeah, I think that they have realized the value of age inclusivity in that market, and I don't think it's just a trend. I think that's the way it is now,
I,
and I'm so happy about that.
I think that
Um,
I can't imagine us going backwards now.
no, no,
It's definitely
we
going
have
to,
more disposable income. Like I was saying
yes,
before, it's like
yes,
we've been buying it. For
yes,
them to stop representing us now, and you've got the next generation coming out, they have an expectation to be seen now,
right,
so
exactly.
yeah, so I don't think beauty is going to go anywhere. I don't think that's going to stop, but fashion definitely needs to, just fashion and lifestyle. Let's not have the stereotype. I've been so selective about the modeling jobs that I've done. I've been offered um I mean, a lot of money to do like incontinence pads, for example, or uh, you know, and I wouldn't do that. That's not to say that that's not, that's a job for another model, and there's absolutely fine for another model to do that. It's not what I'm trying to in this space to do. I'm not here to perpetuate any kind of stereotype. That might be a useful thing for somebody in my age group, but I'm not here to I'm in this space I'm in this whole industry to be in spaces that were previously reserved for people that don't look like me. And that's I just want to change perception. So I've turned down really lucrative deals
Wow.
because it doesn't sit with why I'm here. It
Right.
doesn't align with why I'm here and why I do what I do.
Well, it
Um,
also makes sense that you say that because, as you talked about, when you were younger, that through all the choices that you've made, it wasn't based on just the decision wasn't based on your
yeah, that's a good point.
know? So you
Yeah.
definitely based on that, you're being consistent, right? So even now
Yeah.
to be given other opportunities, like you said, very lucrative ones, and to turn it down because it's not aligned with where you are today.
Yeah.
I
I
mean,
just want to disrupt the perception around us,
right,
because I so strongly believe that, that had impact on me, like just the negative, like it would be a stair lift or, anybody over 40, it was, hearing aids or
right.
whatever. And of course that is part of aging, and it affects a lot of people my age, but that's been done, like let's see something else. Let's see something positive. So, around this. So
So there. I'm so
yeah,
because what is so frustrating to me is like if I am watching a show, I continue to see pharma ads, and I'm like if I were to count the number of pharmaceutical ads that I see,
exactly.
say a
Exactly.
2-hour block, it is ridiculous. Where I literally
Yes.
mute the TV, I walk away and go do something else because I'm like, and I'm like, I used to do mass advertising for,
Yeah.
on a corporate side. And so I know what goes into, placement. I know what goes into media buys. And
Yeah.
am I that person now
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
that
Exactly. exactly that. And I just feel like that's what we're fed. And that's
Yeah,
why, that's partly why I feared aging when I was in my
yeah,
40s. It's like, okay, so it's the decline now.
right.
That's not all we buy. I still buy nice clothes. I still like nice products for my hair or whatever it is. I'm still doing that. And we deserve to be seen in that space.
Exactly.
And that's why I do what I do. And it's the only thing that motivates me. And that's why I'm not prepared to do I don't do
I
jobs
hear
just
you.
for the money. Yeah. Yeah.
I love how you show up and how you are the way that you're visible because I could see you, if you talked about wearing Adidas.
Yeah, yes.
When I
Adidas.
say Adidas here, people are like, no, it's Adidas.
Adidas. Yeah.
Right,
I have to say it how Run DMC said it.
right, right.
Adidas, my Adidas.
Right, exactly. And I love your style because it it's very different than what you would expect to see from someone who's in their 50s and who's 60, and it's casual, but it's fun and it's aspirational. Like it's like you don't
I
have
love
to
it.
change who you are because of that number, you know?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
and so I love that. I haven't gotten there yet in terms of changing my style. So I try to figure out who am I right now? How do I
yeah.
be seen? Because I'm really short, so I'm used to wearing like
Heels. Yeah, yeah.
heels. But then I'm like, I really want to change things up so that I can wear sneakers. I don't wear sneakers, but
Right.
instead I need to do something different just to lighten things up a bit and just change.
I think, and I wrote about this as well on Instagram. I definitely think that happens to a lot of women where they kind of get to a certain age and it's like, is this appropriate? They start to question their
Mhm.
own choices and struggle a little bit. I call it a style struggle,
Yes.
um, because one, we're taught that, certain things are inappropriate age, certain things are not age appropriate, you know. Two, we're told, the media tells us that there are rules around what you should wear as you age, that,
Mhm.
uh, and tells us that we should try and look younger as well. I saw a headline the other day that was like, I think it said rules for what to wear over 50 and how to look younger. I put it on my Instagram. You'll see it on a major broadsheet newspaper on the front cover.
Hmm.
I was like, what is this? Like, there's no rules around it. And I just think I just know what works for me. I know that my styles has evolved in
Mhm.
terms of my body's changed shape,
Mhm.
and I can't wear heels as much because my feet just don't allow me to. I love heels, but my feet are like screaming at me,
Hmm.
please take these off. They hurt,
Right. Okay.
So I can't wear heels for a long time. I love wearing heels though. Um, but I feel like I might have tweaked it a little bit, like things that accentuate my silhouette or complement my new silhouette. I'm a bit heavier on the hips now. So I've worked out what works for me. But I truly believe that you could take inspiration, of course you can.
Mhm.
But I just think it's style really, I wrote this recently as well. Style really is in you, not on you.
Mm.
And by that, I mean, you express yourself through your own individual style,
Right.
um and what's comfortable as well, what you feel comfortable in is really important too.
Right.
So I'm glad you said that, because like showing up wearing clothes that I would just wear every day, um is uh, being visible. You don't see it, like the fashion brands are not presenting that. So I really hope that me showing up just in wearing the clothes and the styles that I like will help in some way,
Yeah.
because the brands are not doing it. They're not
Right.
being age inclusive, so you can't have there's no representation, no visibility around that, and no kind of guidance for anyone who is struggling. So
Hmm.
yeah, I hope I'm going to be doing more fashion.
I was going
Definitely.
to ask, is that next thing?
I think so. Yeah, I feel like it is. Yeah, good beauty. I enjoy it still. I love skincare. I genuinely
Mhm.
enjoy trying new products and stuff. And I've never wore makeup when I was young, and I've only just discovered makeup. So I have fun with that. So there's a genuine
That's
kind of,
brilliant.
affection for those two industries, for
Yes.
sure. So I won't stop doing it for that sense, but I'm not as robust in my kind of, we need to be visible, because I feel like it's kind of happened in the last 6 years.
Right.
And it doesn't, it excites me if it's like I, I worked with L'Oreal and I got to say, we're worth it and things like that.
Right.
And for someone that looks like me to be in that space at this time in life, that's a powerful thing. And I think, there was that, there was a draw with that one,
Mm-hmm.
because I haven't seen somebody who's not a celebrity in that space saying those words,
Sure.
So there's been lots of kind of groundbreaking things that have made me feel, compelled to do that because it's powerful.
Right.
But in terms of, just promoting, just working in the beauty industry at the moment, I feel like I feel like kind of I've done so much in that space. I would like to make change in fashion. I think, I'll attempt to anyway. Whether I'll be successful or not, I don't know.
I
I
think,
think it's a tougher nut to crack.
yeah, but I think you will be. I
I'll do my best to, and if I can't, then I'll create my own line, and there we go.
exactly. See,
My own space that's inclusive and
and
visible,
that's
where
the
we can
beauty
be
of this
visible.
time in our lives, right? Because we say that it's like, okay,
Yeah,
I will work with the established,
yeah,
brands, but if not, I'll create it myself.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. I'll create that space myself.
yeah. So I just did an episode about it. It ended up being about like letting life unfold. And so I'm thinking about that because as I'm listening to you, it sounds to me like that's kind of what has happened to you. Do you feel like you just kind of were open and things just kind of unfolded one step at a time and it just got bigger
100%.
and better? Because that's how it sounds to
100.
me.
100%. I mean, I really am a big believer, and it's been evident in my life in the last decade. Um, just to be open, and
Mhm.
opportunity just comes. I honestly, uh, it's changed my life having that mindset, like not being afraid to step out of my comfort zone, not being, uh, you know, I've always, I have always I've never been, like I said before, I've never been afraid of instability or insecurity, not having, the financial kind of foundations to be able to provide me with the freedom to do certain things. I've always just moved forward and gone with the flow to
Hmm.
a degree. Um, but I have had my limitations when I was younger in terms of my confidence
Hmm.
and in terms of my self-belief, what I thought I was I always felt like other people believed in me more than I believed in myself. Like I always felt like other people saw something in me before I saw it myself when I was young. That's not the case anymore. Like I'm open to challenging that now.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I didn't think I could do modeling, but one of the first jobs I got was in my lingerie. I'm the girlfriend, the friend that wears a sarong and have always worn a sarong on the beach. So
Mhm.
for me to be like in lingerie at
Wow.
55 at that time,
Wow.
in a studio with models under, all the other models were like 30 or under, was one of the first jobs I did. Was, that was kind of overwhelming, but I was just like, this is so important. I've this really established brand. It's called Marks and Spencers. I think it's probably 150 years old.
Hmm.
Um, it's a very established brand in this country that are known for their lingerie. They'd never booked a model my age before. So I knew the power of it, and I just pushed through my insecurities that I had around my body, my aging body at that time, and said yes to it, did it. Once I was on the stage, I had never felt so connected to my body as I did when
Really?
I just delivered in the moment. Prior to it, I didn't sleep the night before. They gave me a glass of water on set, and my hand was shaking so much I couldn't find my mouth. Literally my hand was like that. And then when I got on, I had to dance, and when I got on there, I just delivered. I don't know what happened, but I was just like, okay, I'm here. I'm
Right.
gonna do this. And I did it, and I came off, euphoric. because I'd done it. And so it was like a huge personal growth that happened in that moment.
I'm sure.
Um, but it led to other things. Me saying yes to that led to me talking on a panel about, aging bodies and how that impacts you. It led to me being all over, because I was the oldest model that brand had ever booked, being in all the newspapers and on television and getting my blue tick on Instagram because you couldn't buy them back then, which then led to other opportunities. So I'm a big believer in saying yes and being open to things and allowing yourself to be in new spaces, whether that's just a new headspace or a space that, that has been offered to you, that you can have a seat at the table, as they say.
Wow. It's like I can't help but think about my own personal journey as you're speaking.
Yeah.
And I often talk about being still and letting things be. And then sometimes ideas and things will come your way. But I have not experienced what you have experienced, where things just kind of unfold. I feel like it's always a fight. Like everything is, you got to map it out, you got to plan it, you got to grab it. You know what I mean? Like it's
Yeah.
always like
Yeah.
uphill battle. Even if it's not a steep hill, it's still
Yes. Yeah.
trudging along versus feeling as though things are just happening because they were.
Yeah.
Because I
Yeah.
do believe that God maps out your steps, but I feel like I've had to push or pull for mine. But it's
Right.
like you at a certain point in your life is released.
Yeah, yeah. I definitely think there's something in that for sure. I was talking about this with somebody else the other day, actually. Just how I just felt like in my 50s, I was just being given gifts. Like that's what it felt like. Like,
Yeah.
there you go, Mia. You've had a tough time. There you go, Mia.
Yeah.
You've done
Oh,
this.
this
Good,
is
well
brilliant.
done. That's what it felt like. It really did. Just opportunity after opportunity,
Hmm.
and life-changing stuff as well.
Right.
All from saying yes to modeling and to stepping out of my comfort zone.
Wow.
That's what it felt like. Just
Hmm.
that yes, that signing on the dotted line
Yeah.
just changed everything.
So along this journey, have you thought about what your legacy would be? Like before now, did you think about like what am I leaving or how will I be remembered? What is my legacy? And then now, what do you think?
I never really thought about that. That's a really good question. I am very much about just the now. Like
Hmm.
I really do just live in the now. Like I obviously, there's a certain amount of planning for the future. I want security for my kids and that sort of thing now. And thankfully, I'm in a position where I never thought I'd ever be in, where I can do that for them.
Yeah.
Um, but other than that, I haven't thought about legacy at all. I feel like, yeah, just I'm still living. I'm still like I'm alive. I'm in this moment now, and just striving to make change, striving to change perception. I'm just busy thinking
Yeah.
about the now,
Yeah.
not thinking about legacy. I mean, now you've put me on the spot, and I'm thinking about it. It would just be that, that whatever I've done publicly has resonated. Like I've always said, I'm not an influencer, I'm a resonator.
Hmm.
And by that, I just mean I'm not setting out to I just want whatever I put out there to land on somebody and and resonate and hopefully, have impact in that way. Just so other people, I hope that other people feel seen when they see me, whether that is my body type, my skin tone, my hair texture, my hair color, my age, whatever it is. I just hope that people feel more seen when they see me. I
Hmm.
suppose. I suppose that's my legacy,
I
I
like
think.
that you said I'm still living. I never really looked at it that way because that's in my head a lot, right? What am I
Yeah.
thinking about these things? But like you said, you're still living. It's still happening. Right?
Yes. Yeah, exactly. I've never really been a planner for the future. So I guess that's why I've not actually thought about legacy at all. But
Hmm.
I mean, I would just hope that I've helped to change perceptions. I've helped to make this space or this time in life aspirational, that I hope I've by challenging the narrative, I've had impact on the next generation and helped them to kind of take the fear out of worrying about this time in life or worrying about not having got to a certain stage in life, and that anything can happen at any time,
Right.
and that the bad things that happen equip you with good things, moving forward. I hope that by sharing and being open about my life helps people feel seen. I think that's really what it is I want to do. And also, I hope challenging ageism creates a safer space for the next generation, or a kinder space for the next generation to evolve into. I hope that that's what happens. I think, yeah, I hope that it just creates a kinder space for generations to come, I guess. Kinder than the one that I entered into when I was 40, when I was terrified of what was next.
Yeah. Well, you definitely helped kind of reshape the views of this phase of life for so many.
Right.
So I know you've done that. You've accomplished that. And I'm excited to
Ah.
jump into the fashion space. Uh,
Thank you. That means a lot to me. Thank you so much.
Fun.
Yeah,
Fun
yeah.
to watch. So my final question for you is, when have you felt the most fulfilled in your life? I think I know the answer to that, but I'm going to ask it anyway.
I would say the most fulfilled, and in equal measures, but very different,
Mhm.
motherhood. Like
Mhm.
being a mum, like I could get tearful talking about that period. I took time out to be at home with my kids. I think it's evident from what I've told you. I, my younger self, I really wanted my mum to be the loving, caring, uh, conventional mum. She wasn't that. She's who she is. That's. I have no expectation now, but when I was young, I did. So
Mhm.
for me to be a mum and step up and provide in the way that I did, even though I took a financial hit from, because I moved away from my career to be around my kids. I didn't have any support, and I didn't want to hand them over to a professional carer. I really wanted to be at home with my kids. And even though we struggled financially, that period in my time was hugely fulfilling, because in a way, I was kind of, I knew instinctively what they wanted, because I knew it was what I didn't have as a
Mm.
child. So for me, that was really fulfilling. I loved that little pocket, 6 years or whatever it was, where I was at home with them.
Yeah.
Uh, the most coziest, loving, yeah, honestly, that time in my life was just so fulfilling. And then I'd say my 50s, I don't know, I'm just turned 60. I don't know what this decade holds for me yet. I've been told this is a fantastic phase in life. Your 60s is amazing. But my 50s, just the most transformative years of my decade of my life. And equally so was mothering as well. That was super
Mhm.
transformative,
Mhm.
um, transformational. But yeah, I'd say my 50s in terms of personal growth, confidence, pivoting late in life, adventure, uh, very fulfilling. All of it's just been so fulfilling. And I'd still, that's continuing into my 60s. So, but I can't talk about my 60s because I'm the new
But
kid
you
on the
just got
block. So
there.
yeah, I just got started in my 60s. But
Yes.
I can just tell you that my 50s at the time felt like the sweet spot.
Hmm. Wow. Well, I think this has been a very enlightening conversation, and
Yay.
so appreciative of you just being open and honest and just sharing about the different phases that you've experienced in life. And what I think is inspirational is knowing that there's more to come, and there's some
Yeah.
great things that could be, in front of so many of us. And I'll just take a step back to say this. I'm glad you touched on the motherhood piece, because I had to make some sacrifices in my career for my kids as well. And I just
Yeah.
beat myself up about that. And, like feel like I'm trying to make up for the things that I sacrificed back then.
Yeah. Yeah.
And maybe that's part of my fight versus just allowing myself to be.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
You're at that phase of playing catch up.
yes, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. That happened to me as well. Like there was a period where I thought, am I ever gonna like make it? Like, am I ever going to? I felt I was definitely 3 rungs down on the ladder, like from everybody else in terms of my career, and I struggled to get back in. I was very fortunate. I had, a friend so she was the one with the music awards show
Mhm.
that took me on board for the very first one, and when I was coming out of that 6-year period, I reached out to her and said, I need to get back into work. Do you have anything? And she said, look, I've got 2 roles. You could come back as head of PR. We'd love to have you as head of PR, which is what my role was then, previously. And it would be full time. And I knew it was full on, that role. She said, or I have a part-time role as my assistant, which would mean you could balance, parenting. And I went for that. It was huge, like, for me, it felt like a huge step back, in terms of my career, to be her assistant at early 40s. Would I have been then?
Mhm.
No, not as old as that, late 30s. Um, Having worked so hard to get to, the head
Mhm.
of PR previously, it did. But I was just grateful to be able to try and balance the two. I was very fortunate as well to have a friend that, you know, that valued my skills
Yeah.
and valued me and my integrity as a person.
Mhm.
Um, and also, knew how passionate I was about, elevating our music and our artists and the culture. So, yeah, so I said yes. And that's how I kind of got back into it. But it was, that was definitely a sacrifice, but one worth making,
Hmm.
because I have an incredible relationship with my girls. Like,
Right.
yeah.
I'm
And
sure they
I
have
mean,
fantastic memories.
not to say you can't balance the two. Some people can. For
Mhm.
me, that didn't work.
Yeah.
There's definitely benefits to straddling both worlds and being able to do both and showing your kids what it looks like to be, charging ahead in your career. There's
Mhm.
definitely benefits to that. But
Mhm.
there's equally benefits to being, at home and nurturing, doing baking and art and whatever it is. They're both equally valuable. It's just a different way of doing it. But they're both showing your kids uh, different things, but
Right.
equally valuable.
Right.
So I no judgment for anybody that goes back to work. I
Yeah.
think that's fantastic. It's your choice and what you can, what you choose to do. That's important.
Right. And now you're reaping the rewards, right, for your sacrifice and getting to spend a lot of quality time with your girls. And
Yes.
they get to see
Yeah.
mom thriving differently at the
Yes.
beginning of their life. So
Yeah. And
there's no cap to it, right?
absolutely. And I also think that it happening later in life as well, and them being the mature ages that they're at as well, they can really like understand it more. I think if that had happened when I was younger, there wouldn't have been, they wouldn't have witnessed it in the same way. The
Hmm.
perception would have been very different. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I feel like that's powerful in itself and something I hadn't actually thought about before. But yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, this was definitely a great conversation. I'm
Oh,
getting a lot
good.
out of it, and I know the others will too, because I think,
Oh,
I love speaking to women who are accomplished in their own right and still know that they have so much more to do. They're not
yes.
yet, and also enjoy sharing what they've experienced in life. So thank you so much for being that person, and thank you
Yes.
for joining me here on the Living Her Next Space podcast.
Oh, you're so welcome. And thank you for having me on your platform. I'm really grateful.
Thank you.
You're welcome.